Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, the Eagle Brewer slash Reactor, and in this video, it's finally time for me to give my review on the long-awaited Marvel movie, I guess, the Thunderbolts, plus the asterisk. And we're going to discuss everything from the movie to my thoughts about it, just every little detail. But before we begin, I want to make sure, and I'm going to stress this, that you've seen the movie because we will be hitting spoiler territory, and that's just because the movie's been out for a good bit. I really do spoiler-free reviews, but if I do, I'll let you know. But this one will contain spoilers, and the movie's been out for a good bit, and I mean, soon, like, it's going to be everywhere if you're a fan, like, on social media and everything, so better want to make sure you watch it. I waited until like this movie was up for like a week-ish, so you have enough time to watch it. Then I post my review onto the channel. So with that being said, let's begin. Alrighty, so let me just talk about the movie first. All right, so the movie begins with Yelena. She's sort of the main like focused character we have throughout the film. Um, Central narrative sort of begins with her, and we see the film through her eyes at first. Um, and I believe I saw this somewhere on social media, but you can kind of separate the movie into parts. The first part being essentially Yelena's like last mission. Or first, she's, as you see from the trailers, she's working multiple jobs. She's doing multiple things, like whether it be killing someone, trying to obtain something. She's working for a company. I think it's called like Onks or something. I can't remember the exact like Ox or something. I can't remember the name of the company. It was such a weird name. I didn't like the name of it. It was led by Valentina, Valentina Defonte or something. I think that's her name. I don't know if the movie needed to stretch her last name that much, but there it is. And her assistant's name is Mel. So that's sort of the info we got through that. So Valentina, if you've seen her, she came into contact with each other, I believe, in the movie Black Widow, and at the end, she gave her an assignment to kill Barton. Barton being Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, in the Hawkeye show, and they had a little moment there. And she's still working for Valentina, and I was confused a little bit. Like, that's not enough for her to give up. Because I thought in Thunderbolts that would be like the last moment. She works for her, but nope, she still continues to do jobs. I guess it might just be because she has something better to do. Yet, I mean, she didn't do her last assignment either. So, see, the whole thing about Val is, she's just trying to, she doesn't care too much about the Avengers. She's clearly corrupted in her own right. She's not really a good person. But, I mean, she's not the worst either, I guess. She's trying to make herself look good in front of the public, yet she herself is just not that great. But she still has power over all these people, and the movie's trying to show how she makes fun of the Thunderbolts characters because of how lackluster they are. How for her they're just loose ends, but if they can actually come together and form something, then maybe they could be able to take down pretty much anything. And that's sort of the hope this movie's trying to bring us. With the Avengers gone, who will keep the people safe? And the question isn't really answered until towards the end. Now, of course, we've got like aliens and wizards and stuff, but might not be enough. Who knows? And now, at the end of Captain America Brave New World, they tease that a new Avengers team must be formed. Yet in Thunderbolts, the asterisk also means the new Avengers. So, like, are the teams gonna merge together in Doomsday or something else gonna happen? But we'll find out. I'll get to that in a bit. But as the movie continues, Yelena is on her mission. First, one of them was she was trying to take down, I think, one building that had like some evidence of what Val was doing, I guess, and she blew it up. That shot was seen from the trailer as well as one of her final missions. And then she goes to talk to her father, I guess, not really her actual father, Alexei, um, and we see him now. It's the same shot we saw from the trailer where she goes into his house, and of course he's sort of just a mess, just watching TV, laying on his couch, all that stuff. But he's trying to be like the father figure for her. So there's a lot of character arcs and growth and dynamics that they're trying to portray over there, which is pretty good. And then Red Guardian guy actually kind of gets upset that, you know, he himself has just been sitting all day on the couch not doing anything, and he sort of wants to, get back into the action and actually do stuff, So he's sort of trying to be the motivator in the film, at least one of the motivators. And eventually, Yelena decides to go back to work for Val for one last final mission, I guess, final like assignment where she has to actually get her hands dirty before she does something less private and more public based. So Val essentially gives everyone that sort of has been working for her, for example, John Walker, and this was the whole thing, where they had a little interaction towards the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where she told him that things are about to become weird. Yet I don't even know if we ever really got a proper answer to that question, like how are things gonna change? Now he did, I guess, sort of become the U.S. agent, like obviously didn't become the new Captain America, but um, after that, I guess he had also been working for her, but I wonder how and what else he had been doing in his sorry about that, in his pastime. Yet we didn't really get that answer, but I guess that's fine. The movie has its own runtime and has to, fit itself in with the constraints of everything. It's interesting how they chose these particular people, but I think maybe they must have had some connections. I still wonder what was the connection. Like I can see everyone else, like Taskmaster, somehow working for Val. I can get all that. But Ghost, I don't know why she would work for her, or maybe she worked for her in the past. Maybe when she was a Shield, when she was working for Shield. Maybe I don't know if Val was involved with Shield at all, but who knows. But they're all basically all there to sort of kill one another, and all right. Final spoiler warning that I'm gonna give. Ghost kills Taskmaster. Yeah. Pretty early on in the movie. Now, I am kind of upset. Let me be honest with you. I actually didn't want her to die because Marvel had been teasing it so much, and she died like. I mean, obviously that in the beginning because she wasn't shown like in any of the main shots or anything, and neither did was she part of like Thunderbolts cast members who we saw that were returning for Doomsday. So, you know, it felt dumb. Like if I was hoping until the end that maybe a new Taskmaster would step up, but no, we didn't get any of that. So and that was just dumb, stupid. I mean, I guess if they wanted to kill her, that's fine. I mean, they couldn't show her, but I don't know if she should have been killed early on. But then again, like, what else would have killed her? Maybe Sentry could have killed her. Maybe that would have been a bit more, interesting. But is it because when people watched Black Widow they didn't like this version of Taskmaster that they just wanted to get rid of her? Could be. Or I might just be wrong. This may have always been the plan, because they just wanted to show how she was a mercenary and this was her way of going out, being killed by Ghost, who was probably one of the best of the, I think, when it comes to like skills and all, because she actually worked for Shield and she had a pretty good history of doing missions and stuff. I could assume, but and so could Yelena and I guess a few of the others maybe, but that was that. Um, so yeah, and they all decide to sort of work together as a team, and of course we have my man, Wyatt Russell playing U.S. Agent John Walker. He's awesome in this movie. He's just great. I love seeing him on screen and sort of trying for more of the heroic role, which it's kind of hard for him after what all happened. But when he showed his true colors of who he really was, and when it came down to everything, could he still rise from the pressure of the public and what's happened to him? But at least he's sort of trying to pick up the pieces of his life and move forward. Now, another thing which happened is when the main Thunderbolts, being uh, John Walker, Yelena, um, Ghost. What's Ghost's real name? I forgot. And what was the other one? I think that it was mainly those three, right? And then I think we saw, and Taskmaster died, and then we saw Bob, um, Bobby. What's his real name? Like, Robert something. I forgot his last name. So he was also there, And he sort of has these issues when it comes to his memory. He can't really remember everything, you know. He was part of the Sentry program, the only one that survived it actually, which is amazing. I believe the people who may. I still wonder the people who were doing the test on him, are they still alive or are they dead? I'm assuming they're dead, but who knows? But he survived the program, but he doesn't have really any memory of all the tests and really what happened to him back then. Like he himself, maybe it's buried deep inside him, but he can't really remember. Maybe he has like little figments or maybe like little episodes, but maybe he can't remember everything, you know. And he tries to be a helping hand. Yet whenever he helps and reaches out to someone's hand, they get like these. Each character sort of remembers like the some moments from their past lives where they went through something either traumatic or just depressing or devastating, which sort of shaped them since then, you know. For example, like John Walker, he himself lost a lot, you know, from the fame and fortune which he once had to his kid, and it just, I'm assuming it really broke him apart. And same for the others as well. I was kind of surprised to honestly see Ghost in this film, but I guess she's there, you know. I don't know if she'll still be interacting with the Ant Man fam, but we'll see. So they all sort of work together to escape, and after doing so, you know, they try to leave with Bob, but Bob sort of uses himself as a distraction to help the other Thunderbolts members leave. Yet the people, sort of, I think, like the task force or whatever you want to call them, start shooting at him, you know, which is crazy because before he looked like an unarmed civilian. Yet, had they known who he truly was, that being the Sentry, things probably would have turned out differently. And that sort of unleashes him, where he literally leaves Earth's atmosphere, kind of. I mean, almost goes to space, but just stops midway, and then he falls back to the ground, um, like a crater, like super destructive, super powerful. Now, of course, Yelena thinks that when Valentina sees this, she's gonna try to use him for her. Um, and this whole time, I was wondering, okay, well, Sentry has had nothing but a sort of a pleasant experience with them, you know. But as soon as Val starts telling her certain things, then a certain part of himself gets activated, which he likes to hear. Like he's the chosen one. He could be a hero. He could finally matter. You know, things like that, which he never really heard before in his life. You know, and there's sort of like a twisted side of him which came through. And I believe one of the reasons why he may have survived the program is because he was the one which really he had enough. He had been through enough, and you know his body was the only one which could truly take it. You know, based off all of the, I guess, abuse and whatever he went through beforehand. You know, like the program really made sure that he would be the one to succeed and become Sentry or the Void, either one, you know, just depending on how his day's been, I guess. But I mean, if you have one, then you can't really hide the other, I guess, you know. But maybe in Dooms, if they can figure out a way to make it work, because just having Bob there doesn't make much sense. And I honestly wonder, why can't Bob just continue living his normal life? I guess he's maybe like too powerful to just be left alone, maybe. But you know, I wonder how are the Thunderbolts gonna take care of him? You know, like, because hopefully there's some other way this truly gets resolved. You know, or is it like no, it's just always gonna be like that? Like even in Thunderbolts, where they sort of maybe try to get rid of his evil side, maybe it's always still there. Like you can never really truly get rid of it. You know, the evil, the pain and suffering portion of him might still be there, but you know, no matter how hard he tries, it's sort of just something he has to live through. So it could be anything. I guess we'll find out later on. So eventually, Red Guardian comes in and saves the other Thunderbolts members as they're trying to escape. And while they're leaving, eventually Bucky is sort of after them and chasing them, you know, and is trying to turn them in as sort of evidence for what Val has been doing behind the scenes and trying to prove all the shady stuff she's been involved in, and which could get her impeached, which is what he'd been trying to do thus far. Yet, that doesn't happen when he finds out about who Sentry is and what he's really been doing this whole time. And he eventually realizes that they all need to team up together and stop him. And I feel like were they not gonna do this originally? Like, had Bucky not been there, like, what was their plan gonna be instead? Just leave? Maybe. Who knows? But eventually they decide to face Val together. So they go and try to find where she's located, and find out that she bought the Avengers Tower. Now, I have a question for you guys. Maybe you can answer this. But when did she buy the Avengers Tower? Was she the buyer from Homecoming? Is that when she bought it, or did this happen later? I'm curious to know because they never really explained. Like they waited all this time to introduce her and then explain who bought it, which is kind of crazy. So what has Val been doing like since she bought it? Like they mentioned how the whole thing had been going through renovations for a while, but still curious as to like all that happened. Now it doesn't really say the Avengers Tower anymore, I think, but it's still the same one. And I wonder like, did the Avengers not have like a hold of that property? Like, did Tony Stark like didn't he own it or something? So like, was it like part of his? Oh, but he died, I think, after it got sold. So was selling it always the plan? Like, why did they decide to sell it? Because the Avengers broke up, maybe. Was that why it got sold? I don't remember too well. Um, but that happened. And what else? So eventually, Val's like, all right, you want to come after me? Well, then you have to come after my man Sentry, aka Bob. Bob's the goat, after all. And when the Thunderbolts see him, he just looked amazing. Like as soon as he was on screen, like the guy truly like pretty much looked comic accurate from what I've heard, and just amazing. With the suit and eventually the blonde hair and all. Like when you see Bob, you don't think, oh, there's my man Sentry. Like no, but when he's fully in armor and his suit and his hair is done and everything, like he just looks like the guy. And of course, the Thunderbolts are a match for him, so he's able to stop them easily. Um, but Yelena is still trying to find the good inside of him and trying to stop him from becoming the evil side of him, aka the Void. Um, I was wondering how threatening and scary they were gonna make him end up being, and they did a decent job with that. They showed him like, I guess, terrorizing New York, and the whole crashes and all the stuff happening, and the collateral damage that was occurring was insane. Um, but eventually, the Thunderbolts members sort of kind of give up, but Red Guardian sort of convinces his daughter Yelena to, try to still hope for the best and come together to work things out. And eventually they do end up doing that. This happens towards the thirdish act of the film, like in between Act 2 and Act 3, where we're nearing the end. And it may have just been a tad bit rushed and could have been a bit more enjoyable. I mean, I still loved every scene, but, I felt like if they could give me a bit more, maybe I would have enjoyed it that much more. But I guess everything that was happening, like from behind the scenes and all in the film, was, I guess, what they were trying to show us and keep the focus going the whole time. So I definitely feel like Yelena was the one who we see the film through her eyes, but the others do pitch in from time to time. And she eventually decides to, because the whole thing is like she's sort of like this light in the darkness. I mean, they were really on the nose about that whole thing. So sort of did end up happening where the void is kind of like the darkness, and she's sort of like the light trying to help Bob, overcome his obstacles and sort of everything that he's been through. So she's ready to face one of her worst parts of her life again, where she sort of causes the death of a small little child, which she regrets a lot, as mentioned. And she's not able to undo what happens, and she has to sort of live with that forever. But knowing that she has support from her father and the other members who can sort of comfort each other on the bad things that they may have caused directly or indirectly is definitely interesting, to say the least, and is one of the important pieces of the film. So she decides to help comfort my man Bob through everything that he's been through. Eventually, she finds Bob, and Bob mentions that the room he's currently been in is one of the nicer rooms from where he is, and it's sort of like it's deep inside of his mind where they're located, where he's sort of like before he changed and the operation happened and everything, before he was part of the Sentry program, this was him at one of his lowest moments ever, Then I wonder, was he Sentry before, or was it like, did the film show us like the first time he ever fully got, like in the Sentry like outfit and like doing like things that only Sentry could do, or was he Sentry beforehand? Or was he just not activated yet? I'm curious to know. Like, did the shooting from the guards cause it firsthand, or no? It happened later. And I feel like whenever he sort of becomes like, maybe angry or powerful, I think during those periods of time, Bob himself, I guess, kind of loses like memory of what actually occurred, maybe, and maybe he doesn't really know what's going on. Maybe because he's not in control anymore. It's kind of giving me like Moon Knight vibes with like the multiple personality thing, but maybe that's just a coincidence, or maybe there's other characters like that. You have multiple sides to them. But anyways, Yelena tries to help Bob, and so do the other Thunderbolts members, and yeah, I mean, he sort of goes to one of the worst rooms inside of him, and that's where I think laying there like he's about to become Sentry, like the program's starting or started, I guess, and that's where he has to sort of, I guess, overcome himself, I guess, like fight himself, the evil version of himself, who's pretty much terrorizing New York, um, because he's sort of, I guess, that version enjoys the power, and he's finally the one that's being feared, and he feels like what he's doing is right, I guess, and maybe the experimentations that happened on him changed him into this being who you do not want to mess with at all. The Void is someone you want to not be in close proximity with. Yet Bob has to essentially face that version of him. But Yelena says that she'll try to help him, and don't listen to what he's saying, because even though he's saying to himself, the darker version is saying to himself that no one cares about him, and how he'll be pretty much alone forever, and his life's pretty much amounted to nothing thus far. Yet Yelena's trying to convince Bob to say that's not true, so Bob tries to beat him up. Yet you could see him slowly turning entirely black, kind of reminding me of the whole Venom symbiote thing. Yet he is going a bit too far by that point in time, I guess. So they have to try to stop him from, because I think if he fully destroys him and fully becomes angry, then he might just be the Void from then and there, So they stop him, and I guess the town becomes bright again. I still don't know how that entirely works or what they're trying to tell us with that. I mean, the message was there, but it just kind of felt a little bit rushed and forced towards the end, and have everything just seeming a little too perfect. But maybe I'm nitpicking too much. Eventually, though, after that, I guess everything becomes good, perfect and good, I guess, and all's right in the world, and they see Val, and they're all about to go charging at her, yet when, they pull through, I guess, whatever was it, like the rope or curtain thing or whatever, the fabric, it turns out that they're sort of at like this little event she was hosting, where she reveals to the public the project that she'd been working on, which was the new Avengers, aka the Thunderbolts, and how this was her whole plan this entire time, which she'd been working on, and how everyone should thank her because she's trying to essentially steal all of the credit, being like, it's me. Like, the reason that New York is safe is because of me, because no matter what happens, she's always trying to make her seem positive and have the limelight sort of focused on her. And yeah, she's just terrible for that, because she pretty much did nothing. Um, and the other Thunderbolts members is funny when they're just looking at her like, what? We did everything. Like, she's the one who kind of caused the chaos. Like, she didn't really do any of the good stuff. But the good moment is when Yelena goes up to her like, we own you now, and like she's pretty much like powerless. Like, she can't really do much, and if they wanted to, really, they could just turn Sentry's switch back on, and no more of her, I guess. But maybe they can have a little fun with her and toy around with her a little bit, maybe, until they're truly satisfied. But who knows? I guess we'll see. And after that, the movie basically ends. And yeah, then we get the post credit scenes. Well, that was a lot of information I had to cover. It's been about 25 minutes of that. So yeah, that's the movie. Now let's get into the post credit scene. So first one, and I knew about this one. It's the one where Alexi's there at a convenience store, I guess, or your friendly neighborhood grocery store or whatever, where he sort of sees, I guess, a Wheaties box which has on it a picture of the Thunderbolts members, and he's sort of trying to self-advertise and self-promote themselves, and how, like, you should definitely buy this, because I guess now maybe they do have a little bit of fame and fortune, and I guess they are being advertised yet. I don't know how they specifically got onto the Wheaties box, but oh well, that's that, I guess. And he's trying to advertise to a customer who is just not interested, I guess. And that's the first one. Pretty short and sweet. Then the second post-credit scene, let's get into that one. So that one is, I think, one of the longest post-credit scenes the MCU's ever done. They do go into a bit of detail about how, if they're the new Avengers, then what about the old Avengers, and like how are they going to come together, and how are they going to work this out? And then it's revealed that the old Avengers logo, the traditional one, has been copyrighted, and they're, I guess, calling themselves the new Avengers, with, instead of an S at the end for Avengers, there's a Z, I guess. That's shown on the shirt worn by Alexi the Red Guardian. So I guess that's sort of his idea as to how this whole matter should be handled. And then they're all mentioning about how, there's this thing going out in space, and Sam is already sort of assembling his own team, which you heard about from Captain America Brave New World, and how they're not really a part of that team and not really working with them, I guess. So we'll see. Another thing I heard was that specific scene may have been mentioned, that it might have been filmed by the Russo bros. So maybe that scene does repeat I was about to say in Endgame. I mean, it might repeat in Doomsday, but we'll see if that happens or not. And I think eventually we see Sentry, and how, you know, they're all talking about how if something happens and they all go on a mission together, what are they gonna do? Like, what are they gonna do with Bob? Like, he's just there, and without him being Sentry, he's kind of like useless, I guess. But I don't know. Bob's still cool, I guess. I mean, I guess they're trying to convince Bob that he might not need powers, I guess, to truly matter. But like, without his powers, like, what's he gonna do? Like, let's be honest here. Like, he's more of a liability than an asset. I mean, I guess they're trying to help him because like they're like the only ones left who are out there to take care of him. But I don't know. Like, if he's not Sentry, then kind of redundant at that point. Now, I have a good feeling that he might come back as Sentry, but we'll see. Even though at the end of the post-credit scene, it was mentioned that not just the New Avengers will return, but the New Avengers and Bob will return, indicating that Bob isn't a part of the New Avengers. So maybe when the New Avengers are out doing missions and stuff, like, does Bob just like sit and chill at, like, no matter whatever place they hang out in, or does he also spring into action a bit? Because from the start of the film, Bob himself is mentioning, like, maybe I can help and do something. I was wondering if he was going to mention from the Sentry aspect with using his powers, or just the fact that he can help as like a regular old civilian, I guess. Because like when he had the gun, he was like not acting like he was like super powered individual or something. And when he's super powered, he doesn't need a gun at that point. He's like already super OP. But he will return in Doomsday, so we will see him next there. And then I think towards the end of the post-credit scene, we saw that, there was this moment between Yelena and Bucky, and eventually they all find out that there's this like spacecraft thing heading towards them, towards their world, about how there's some big old multiversal thing going on, and that ship is none other than the one from the Fantastic Four First Steps film, which I reacted to the trailer. You can find that on my channel. And that's the one that's, I guess, heading towards them. Maybe because their planet's dying or something, or maybe it is already dead, who knows. And they fled from their home planet, I guess, to seek refuge to this one, I guess. We'll see. They'll probably explain in Doomsday if that is where it was from. Maybe they started filming Doomsday and then eventually they added on the post-credit scene at the end of the film. That could be true. And yeah, that's about it. So that's the film in about 30-ish minutes. Okay, wow. Not to unpack there. So now I'm going to sort of just, I guess, discuss my feelings about the film overall. I did enjoy seeing the team come together and work with each other. Each character has their own strengths and weaknesses, and it was nice to see them all sort of come together as a team and try to, I guess, stop Sentry in the best way that they could. Obviously, they weren't going to actually fight him because he's too powerful for that. But when they were trying to, that scene just looked amazing. Yet, Valentina herself was, kind of scared as to what Sentry could do, and she was trying to calm him down and make him work for her. But the whole thing about that is Sentry doesn't, when he's fully powerful, he will not work for anyone. He will only work for himself and accomplish what he wants to do. And whether that be terrorizing all of New York or, you know, just trying to get by, I mean, he could really do anything he truly sets his mind to, and he basically thinks of himself like a god, which he could be, based off how powerful he is. I would still like to know more about how they tested on him and how all that went. Kind of like how they showed, like, I don't know if Sentry's a mutant per se, but, I mean, obviously wasn't, like, born with his powers or anything, but he did go through, like, multiple tests and stuff, so I'm definitely curious to see how all that ended up. And I'm sure they might explain it in the comics, if like maybe he actually did go to like Malaysia for like some help, I guess, but no, maybe it's a bit different, who knows. But um so that happened, and I mean, I enjoyed seeing the team coming together and all, but the first two acts again were pretty good. Like, I loved them. The third act could have just been a bit better. I was hoping for a bit more of like that Marvel, like, extra oomph that we've I guess, or that I usually enjoy, but didn't have it, so I guess it's fine. It did feel fairly grounded, like very little multiversal vibes given from that one, considering that it's a Phase 5 Marvel movie, but that's that. And the movie, of course, does also mark the end of Phase 5, meaning that after this one, we are officially in Phase 6, the last phase of the multiverse saga, so congrats on that. Another phase done, out. This phase started back in 2023 with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and now it is officially over. Wow, that was quick. But I mean, there are other projects also I've heard that are in the works. One of them being maybe Thor 5. Might come before Secret Wars, but we'll see. So yeah, that's basically everything that happened, and some things I could have just enjoyed a bit more because the third act itself could have been a bit more fleshed out, could have given it a bit more time to breathe, introduce the characters, have them all get a couple of lines to say themselves and work together, and, maybe battle Sentry or not, but could have made it a bit more interesting with how they chose to handle that. I mean, he is super OP, so, like, what are the Thunderbolts going to do against him? Now, we have a question for you guys. Do you think Sentry was a good, like, I guess, villain for the Thunderbolts to sort of try to beat? I mean, obviously, it wasn't like a life or death thing where they had to kill him or something, but they still had to sort of, bring him down to earth, I guess. Whereas in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, it was kind of like they had to, like, kind of, I guess, kill the Kang variants, I guess, but and they're of course being one of the main ones as well. But I guess this one did feel a bit better, more enjoyable for sure, and I love anytime they have moments going over like therapy stuff or just talking about things, their feelings, their vibes, and how this movie chooses to handle a topic like issues like with anxiety and like stuff going on in their mind. So the film itself does try to present itself as something that's watchable by MCU fans and maybe even non-MCU fans. So all that happens, and yeah, that's about that. So I've gone over the movie, shared what I thought could have been a little bit better, I guess. As for a rating or review, it's hard because there's this whole debate about whether it's better than other MCU films like Guardians 3 or Deadpool and Wolverine, so it's hard to specifically say where this one lies because some parts of the movie were fairly enjoyable, like I did enjoy it, but then others could have just been a tiny bit better yet, I don't want to nitpick on this film too much, so yeah, maybe what do I think here? It could be an 8 out of 10 film. It could deservingly so be an 8 out of 10 film, but you know, that's just my personal thought of it, I guess. Um, because there were some things in this film which I truly did enjoy, and hope we could have just gotten a bit more of it. Like seeing the members go through their issue yet still try to work together. Like things like that just make me smile. They make me laugh. Whether it's funny or if it's actually a serious scene, then I'm like, all right, getting serious here. So it's a fun, wild movie with multiple things going on, multiple things happening in it. At the same time. So it's a pretty good movie. Now, is this the movie where I say, okay, Marvel's officially back again? That doesn't really mean anything, so I can't answer that question. The question is it a good MCU film or not? It definitely is. I definitely had a good time watching this one. I had a blast with it, and I do recommend seeing this one whenever you can. I mean, I'm assuming you have seen it, but I recommend other people to check this out if they are MCU fans, because definitely an improvement over Captain America: Brave New World. And similar rating, I guess, with Deadpool and Wolverine movie. And yeah, I think that's about that. So I'm going to end the video right about here. I officially shared my thoughts with you all about my uh, Thunderbolts movie review, aka the New Avengers, right? But the asterisk means the New Avengers, and I think that's about it. Let me know what you guys thought about the movie in the comments below. And as always, consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video, doing all those good things. Just know that there are more videos like these on the way, already planned, and will be scheduled soon. So yeah, that's about it, you guys. Eagle Reactor is out. Take care, and I'll of course see you guys next time.